So I want to talk about the recent releases that happened last week. There weren't many names that were let go, but there were, you know, two notable names that were really just one, and that one was Jinder Mahal, which was the biggest one that was released. And most of the all these releases, pretty much all these releases, they weren't really doing anything, right? You talk about Jinder Mahal, um, Veer and Sangha, Zion Quinn, Zia Lee, Cameron Grimes, and Von Wagner, I believe, from NXT. Those guys weren't doing anything. So these releases don't really hit hard for a lot of fans. Um, Obviously, no one wants to see someone lose their job. It's never a good thing when someone gets fired, gets cut. It's a shitty feeling, especially for the ones that have a family to take care of. And but if we're just being real, um, I would say out of all these releases, two guys were not given a fair shot. And those two guys that were not given a fair shot were Cameron Grimes and Zion Quinn. Now, I remember Zion Quinn was drafted, I believe, to Raw last year and never even made it to Raw. Cameron Grimes was drafted to SmackDown, and he had a mini feud with Baron Corbin, and that was about it. After a couple weeks on TV, they just did not use him, and they did nothing with him. They didn't really give him a shot to develop his character. They didn't really put him in any matches. You know, his last match was a squash, him getting ran through by Braun Breaker, and that was all she wrote. You know, with Zion Quinn, he got squashed by Braun Breaker. He went out the door too. They packed him up. And the reason why I say Jinder Mahal is the biggest release because he did the most noteworthy things in his career, right? After he was released the first time around, came back, he got in better shape. I wouldn't say he was good in the ring. I mean, he was competent in the ring, right? But he became the WWE champion. Obviously for India and for himself and for maybe Jinder Mahal fans, that was great. Me personally, I didn't really care much about his title reign. And in fact, I was glad when it ended. And to me, it will go down as the worst title reign in history. For me, that's my opinion. I wasn't a fan of Jinder Mahal, you know. Good for the guy that he got to accomplish that feat in his career. He got to be in a segment with The Rock, which is huge. Not a lot of guys like Jinder Mahal get to be in a promo battle with The Rock, right? And then after that, he got to fight Seth Rollins for the world title. Now you're thinking, okay, he's in a he's in a he's in a segment with The Rock, and he's facing Seth for the world championship. You would think at that point they do something more with Jinder, right? They give him something to work with. Nope. Right after that world championship match, he disappeared. He disappeared, did nothing, right? The whole tag team of Veer and Sangha, um, they weren't really particularly good. When they had when they debuted, I believe last year on Raw, I guess they had like a jobber match, and it really wasn't that impressive. I guess they weren't convincing enough as dominant heel monsters, right? And that's the thing. When you're given a shot at TV time, you got to knock it out the park. And for most of these talents, except for Cameron Grimes and Zion Quinn, which I believe had the most potential to be something more if they were given a shot. But they were given a shot, but they just did not knock it out the park. Ultimately, they fell flat, right? Jinder Mahal was given a shot. He wasn't really that good. I'm just gonna be honest. He really wasn't that good, right? And neither were Sanga and Veer. Zia Lee had potential, but with Zia Lee, they gave her a shot. They at least tried with Zia Lee. It just did not pan out, and we can say because Vince was booking them terribly. And yeah, you can say that. Vince obviously cared about certain talent, and you knew the talent that he didn't really care about, right? And you saw how they were booked on TV. Triple H could not fix the damage that Vince caused to the roster. When Triple H was taken over, when he first took over in the mid 2022, he had to be tasked with rebuilding a broken roster. And that's not an easy job to do. And with the talents that were kind of damaged goods, that includes Zia Lee and Jinder Mahal and Veer and everyone else, it's like, what can you do? I mean, sure, you can give them TV time, but are they going to knock it out the park? Are the fans going to connect with them, right? And Von Wagner doesn't really count in this situation because he never made it to the main roster. He was in NXT. Um, for what I remember, he really wasn't that good, and I didn't really see much in him at that time as well. So, these releases, for me, I'm not really mad about it. I would say the only release that I'm kind of salty about is Cameron Grimes. Now, I believe out of all the releases, Cameron Grimes have the most potential. They did absolutely nothing with Cameron Grimes. Very disappointing. I mean, you look at his run in NXT. The guy could work. The guy had a character. I mean, he was like this underdog baby face. He was booked to be that way. Um, I really enjoyed his character work in NXT. But for some reason, he went to SmackDown and they just decided not to do jack squat with him. And it sucks to see him just get released. He didn't even get a fair shot. And that to me is sad. Right? It's very unfortunate. And to me, his best work was in NXT. His feud with LA Knight in NXT. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but um I remember that was a really good feud with him and LA Knight over the $1 million championship. You know, the rest of the releases, I mean, yeah, Xia Li, she was given a shot to face Becky Lynch, a little mini feud with Becky Lynch. They tried with Xia Li a couple times, but it just didn't work. But with Cameron Grimes, they didn't even try. It's like if you're given a shot and you miss, then hey, that's on you. Some guys are given second chances. Jinder Mahal was given a couple of chances, right? Obviously, his career got stunted by injuries and whatnot. But overall, to me, he just wasn't connecting. You know, he just really wasn't connecting. I thought if you book Cameron Grimes a certain way, and you gave him TV time, you gave him a shot, man, he would have definitely connected with the fans. That's someone that could have really connected. That could have been a strong mid Carter, could have been United States champion, Intercontinental champion, whatever have you, right? He could have been in the mix in the mid card and whatnot and tear it up. But it's the same thing with like Swerve. When they released Swerve back in 2021, that's a guy that they didn't even give him a shot. They didn't give him any chances to grow, to fail, to get better. They just let him go after a week, right? And look what happened to Swerve. Look where he at now. He's your AEW World Champion. So that might be a situation with Cameron Grimes where he gets drafted to the main roster but never gets used, and they don't even give him a shot. They don't even give him a chance to really tell a story and to really show what he's made of. And he winds up going to AEW and becomes a bigger star in AEW. Now, for everybody that got released recently, I'm going to just say, here's where I think and which company they will go to. Now, starting with Jinder Mahal. To me, I think he is more of a TNA guy. I think he fits well in TNA. I don't know why. I just see him fitting well in the TNA roster. I could see him getting better in the ring and putting on better matches. Look what happened to Naomi when she went to TNA. She came back to WWE. She got better in the ring, right? Her in ring work improved because why? She went to TNA. Usually, TNA is filled with a lot of great workers, in ring workers. And if Jinder Mahal goes to TNA, which I see happening, I could see him getting better. Um, in this year, Veer and Senga. I don't know where they end up. Definitely not AEW. AEW is where the best of the best wrestle. I don't think Veer and Senga have much of a place in AEW. Um, TNA may be where they might end up in the future. Who knows? Or they might do the indie circuit. Maybe so. Who knows? But Xia Li, I think she could definitely tear it up in the independent circuit. TNA in a knockouts division, or she could be better used in AEW. For some guys and girls that are not, they're just not hitting it in the WWE. They go to AEW and they just tear it up, and they fit better in AEW, right? There's just certain people that that are better for AEW than they are WWE. And for AEW, they're just better off at WWE than they are in All Elite Wrestling. Zion Quinn. Now, I haven't seen him wrestle as much in the past. Just by his look alone, I could see him fitting well in AEW because one, he's young. Um, he looks like he's really athletic, so I see him definitely going to AEW in the future. Von Wagner, I would say he's more of a TNA guy, right? If he can, get better in the ring, you know what I'm saying? I think that's a perfect place for him to go to, in my opinion. And Cameron Grimes. Um, I would say he would make a better AEW talent. I mean, he's someone that wasn't given a fair shot, like Swerve. And look what happened to Swerve. He became the AEW World Champion in 2 years, right? I think if Cameron Grimes goes to AEW, I feel like the same thing would happen with him. He would go to AEW, get over, connect well with the fans because he has character and he can work. I think he would be an asset to the mid card, right? And someday be an AEW World Champion. That's what I see Cameron Grimes ultimately in All Elite Wrestling. So that's all I got in this video. Just want to give my take on the recent releases and where I think they'll end up going, and just giving my analysis on kind of where they stood in the company and the shots that they were given and the ones that weren't given shots. Once again, Cameron Grimes is the biggest disappointment of these releases. So, with that being said, thank you all for watching. Like the video on your way out. And this is Irrational Wrestling Mark.